Your Excellencies, Venerable monks, all religious leaders, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I am very honored to be here in this very important place on earth, what we call UNESCO. This is a place where we talk, where we come, work together to make this world a beautiful place to live. We plan each other with our representative from each country, and we draw our plan that how we can deliver our best of our education to our future generations, how we can use the knowledge of science to a more innovation and creativity. This is where all the culture, all the religions come together and make this earth, make this planet Earth, very beautiful bouquet of flowers. So in a way, today we are here, not only for that purpose, but we are here today to remember, to think, to go through the wisdom of someone who has led, who has imparted, who has given what we call a wisdom for this world. The late Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej of Thailand. Just to give you a little background, I would like to recall my personal story, personal anecdotes, so that for someone who is not familiar with what was going on in Thailand, may able to even connect that feeling. It was on 12th October last year. I was our only Buddhist monk in a Bangkok's 5-star hotel, attending a conference on business under the organization of Sustainable Brand to the all CEO of business big corporation of Thailand and abroad. I was alone, of course, in that crowd. But I noticed something going unusually, very noticeable atmosphere. It's sad, it's solemn. So it was something going on. But I couldn't figure it out what was going on, because at that very moment, as one of the speakers on the panel, one of the speakers as a keynote speaker for the conference, and especially I have to impart a speech about all business. So I was very busy with my own idea that what I'm going to speak for those business CEOs. Once I got into the stage, I did my job as what they wanted me to do, gave my thought about how do you do your business as a sustainable business in this modern world. But I noticed the faces, especially Thai people there, they are not happy as I used to be. I used to notice. Thailand is always known as a smile, the big smiling face, Thai smile. But on that particular day, I noticed that I couldn't see that smile on those Thai faces. But I couldn't figure out what was going on. I went down from the stage. Then some ladies came and whispered me that, "Venerable Sir, have you heard about His Majesty King? We have heard something bad news about His Majesty King. You have inner connections with the palace. You might know what was going on." The whole Bangkok, whole Thailand is in a rumor. They are not stable at the moment. So I was shocked to hear that. And I didn't know anything about that. Then I started to really put my feeling what was going on. Why the smiley face of all those Thais just disappeared from their faces. Then I left that conference hall and rushed back to my monastery. On the way, I again noticed that Bangkok was unusually quiet. All the busy streets, it's so quiet. It is so scary. I asked the driver, what happened? Where are all those people? This is not a weekend. This is supposed to be a very, very busy traffic day. Why today there is no traffic? Why I didn't see people walking on the street? The driver answered me, Venerable Sir, haven't you heard that Our Majesty passed away? I said, what? Yes. The rumor is going on everywhere that he has passed away. So every single Thai, they stopped working. They have stopped what they are doing. Everyone is rushing to the hospital. Everyone is in very sad moment of their life. This news really made me feel very bad. I couldn't compose myself. I picked up my phone and tried to call few places. Then I realized that it was true. The late Majesty was in very critical situation. As the speculation and the rumors was going on that His Majesty has passed away, it was not true. But His Majesty was in serious situation. So I thought that's why all the smile from Thais has disappeared. What we are seeing is totally opposite. All the smiley face just turn it down and see that a lot of people's eyes are filling with tears. And I went back and looked at the news, looked at the television. I noticed that every single Thai with their yellow shirts or pink shirts, which has meaning because yellow shirt is supposed to be for the king because he was born on Monday, and they believe that yellow is a color for Monday. So everyone is putting that yellow shirts, and everyone is rushing at the hospital. Hospital ground and surroundings they are very crowded, tens of thousands all around Thailand. They are just going there. Want to know what happened to their beloved king. Want to know whether the rumor was true or not. Finally, that things, we don't know what was going on. The rumor was so bad. And it kept on going on. All the Buddhist temples, hearing the rumors, we don't know what to do. All the Buddhist monks, 30,000 temples around Thailand. Every abbot of Buddhist monasteries gather all those monks, their monks, to the main shrine hall. Everyone started to make a chanting in unison. Everyone trying to meditate, hoping that their tiny love and respect, hoping that everyone's power of mind can help their beloved king. It was not only the monks. All those Thai people who loved king so much, they don't know what to do at that time. They also started to pick up the chanting book. And they all started to chant Buddhist prayer in unison, hoping that their beloved king can recover from whatever disease he was suffering. Some people saying that, I am willing to die for His Majesty King. If I can take that pain and suffering of His Majesty King, I am more than happy to do that. Let His Majesty King live beyond what's happening. While all the turmoil going on, it's going on for the whole day. Imagine the rumors. Imagine the up and down of every psychological state of every Thai people. Then this went on for 2 days. And finally, on the 13th of October 2016, the Royal Palace put the announcement confirming the demise of the late Majesty. We heard, quote, His Majesty has passed away at Srira Hospital peacefully, unquote. A palace statement said, adding he had died at 15:52 Bangkok time, 8:52 Greenwich Mean Time. This ended late Majesty's title as the world's longest reigning king. And suddenly, the world witnessed the cry of Thai people everywhere over their greatest loss. Nobody imagined that they cried. Many say that they cried more than their own parents passed away. So the whole nation immediately fell under a psychological state. Everyone cannot bear themselves. They can't compose themselves until it's become a national crisis, a very poor psychological state of the country. Ministry of Health have to come and issues, bringing in all the psychologists and guide the nation, guide the Thai people. How do you cope with that greatest loss? It's become phenomenon. It's become a very big for Thai people. Their beloved king is not with them anymore. Imagine, for 77 years, they have lived with the guidance of the late Majesty. For some people, it is more than living with their own parents. And suddenly, the signpost, the wisdom, the guidance is not with them anymore. Today, it is 346 days after the death of the late Majesty. Already 346 days, but if you go and see back in Thailand, people from every part of Thailand traveling to Bangkok, where the royal body was enshrined in the royal urn in the Dusit Mahaprasad throne hall in the Grand Palace. People will be waiting in queue for 5, 6, 7 hours, not eating, not sleeping. They will wait and wait, regardless of a raining, regardless of how hot it is. For what? just to have a glimpse of the view of that royal urn, as though they have seen their beloved king there. Just for a tiny second, people waited for 5, 6 hours. Who can imagine that kind of love can get by any single being? The statistics shows that at the moment, until today, 346 days, over 10 million people has been paying respect to the late Majesty. And those all, as the speaker has said, the peasant, the farmers, from all those poor people, when they came, when they visited the king, they don't know what to do, because they have been receiving from the late Majesty all their life, and they don't know what to give back. Each single peasant, farmers may have 10 baht, 100 baht, 500 baht. They are donating, hoping that will at least make some of the arrangement of his royal funeral would be making easy. All those donations from the poor people, imagine, it's already exceeded something around 20 million euros. Everyone is giving with their own heart. Officially, there is no donation is asked. Officially, everything was given free. Even the food, even the water, even the people are giving. The royal family was giving for the people. But that love and respect people showed to the late Majesties was extraordinary, it's unprecedented. This is some tangible sign how people have loved their king. The late His Majesty's corporal body had left for good, but his legacies live on every clod of soil, stream of water, stream of rivers, space on the sky, in the forests of Thailand, and every heart of Thai people. The king died, but not his legacies. His legacies live on and still give happiness to his subjects without his corporal presence. Now it is our duty to transform his dream to reality and make his legacies of creating sustainable society of peace and tangible truth. It is on our shoulder. The light has gone, but we should not just leave that light away like that. It is our single duty to make it happen. For whom? For us, for our future generations. So they can live peacefully. They can live happily, just as we have been living. Talking about peace as the main theme of this conference, of course, we have been organizing conference on peace. If we just have some statistics about peace conference, I guess that we can count it in the UN, in the UNESCO, in all these international organizations, in religious organizations, everywhere. We are talking about peace. Peace is something every single human being wanted, but can't seem to find it. Where is the peace? Some claim that they are for it and that others are against it. Although those against it would probably disagree. As Professor Steve says that peace basically means binding us together, but that whole act of binding keeps us apart. We are saying that this is for my peace. This is my peace. And trying to destroy someone else's peace. And this is what the politics about the peace. It's a very good word, but at the same time, it is very, very skeptic in a way. Sometimes we are starting to ask, is there a real peace in this world? Or peace is just an issue for conference and talking? Can we experience the peace in reality, in our real life? Furthermore, even if someone finds that you feel peace, how long that peace lasts? How long you can rest in peace? When we use the phrase, after all, RIP or rest in peace, it is too late. We are already buried under the graveyard. Our body is already burned into the fire, and we say, rest in peace. We don't have to wish for them to rest in peace because they are already rest in peace. The one who are not rest in peace, one who are jumping without peace, are who we are. So in a way that, how can we talk about peace? Of course, UNESCO, United Nations, they are the signposts. They are the big brothers. They are the big corporations trying to deliver the message of peace, trying to deliver how we can experience the peace, and trying to create the atmosphere that we can rest in peace before it is too late. But it looks like it is something impossible mission. But there was a man back in Thailand 70 years ago who went on that mission, who trying to define the peace and search for peace. And finally, he was able to find that very peace. And not only that, he was able to impart that peace for others so that they can share, they can experience that same peace in a sustainable peace. Who has searched for the peace, not by academic field, not by discussions, but by compassion in action. How do we create peace? We have to be compassion. That compassion is not a feeling, but we have to act upon. We are good at having our own passion for ourselves. Everyone is doing their best to fulfill their passion. But what about common passion? Everyone wants peace. Common passion, in a way, is something about peace. So in order to make that common passion come true, that is what we need for compassion in action. And the very good exemplary of that man was His Majesty the King, who had shown the exemplary of compassion in action for over 70 years throughout his reign. Reflecting upon His Majesty's action, so I came about my own mantra for peace, so that every morning when I wake up, I can think of His Majesty's action and then pray my mantra. That very mantra is, may people everywhere abide by compassion equally. P for people, E for everywhere, A for abide, C for compassion, E equally. Peace. It is not only a fashionable says that peace unto you, peace or whatever you sow your sign. But I would say that it is have to be in our heart, and then chant that mantra. May people everywhere abide by compassion equally. And that is what the late Majesty has shown throughout his life. Of course, my topic given to me is Dharmikaraja, the king of sustainability. So let me talk about something about Dharmikaraja. Dharmikaraja is a title which is very common in most of the Asian religion, be Brahmanism, Hinduism, Jainism, even in Buddhism. It is a very familiar word. It's a textual word called Dharmikaraja or Dhammaraja. The king of virtue, the king of righteousness, the king of Dhamma, the king who upholds morality. So you can translate in very many ways. So what is the king called Dharmikaraja looks like? I don't know how I'm going to explain all this textual, very heavy stuff. So I would like to share with you few stories of how to be a Dharmikaraja. It doesn't mean that it is only the king. We, every one of us, are king and queen in our own way. So how can every one of us who are king and queen can live by that Dhamma? So my first story of Dharmikaraja. Once upon a time, there was a very pious Buddhist king. The king was not a Buddhist by, let's say, tradition, by your, what we call is your ID card. But that very king was very keen in Buddhism, in Buddhist practice. He studied, he read Buddhist teachings, and finally he was well known among his subjects in his country that that king was a very profound knowledge, has a very profound knowledge of Buddhism. Seeing his piety in Buddhism, one of the king's senior relatives once suggested the king that he should make a pilgrimage to Buddhist holy sites. If not in all 4 sacred sites, at least he should go to Lumbini, the spot where the Prince Siddhartha was born. The king told his senior relative that, certainly, he would very much like to make his pilgrimage to Lumbini. I will go one day because I am a true Buddhist. Buddha inspired me a lot. But that very one day never materialized by the king. So the senior relative of the king had an audience with the king again and reminded him with his promise to make that pilgrimage to Lumbini. Seeing hesitation on the face of the king, the senior relative asked king's permission to offer an arrangement for the king's pilgrimage. Using his senior in royalty, he was forceful towards the king to make that pilgrimage to Lumbini a reality. Finally, the king confessed to his senior relative that, quote, I personally would love to make that pilgrimage to Lumbini, where the Buddha was born, but I am in a trap of my own vows, which I made in my mind a long ago. That vow of mine was, while my people are still suffering, I will never make a journey for my own sake. Therefore, I feel not comfortable to make journeys while I know for sure that my subjects are still suffering, unquote. The senior relative of the king was frustrated with the king's logic. So he asked the king, "How can your majesty know that your subjects are happy without any suffering? The way I see, they are very happy, and they are happy than ever in the past under your majesty's reign." The king humbly answered, "I don't know, but my mind tells me that my subjects are still suffering." The conversation between the king and his senior relative on making pilgrimage to the Buddha's birthplace stopped there. This is one example of a Dharmaraja. Let me share you with the second story. Once upon a time, there was a king who successfully ruled his subjects with happy and prosperity. One day, the king felt physically very ill, and best of all doctors are gathered to offer the best treatment they got to their beloved king. Diagnosing the sickness of the king, the team of doctors made a conclusion that the king had cardiovascular disease and need an immediate surgery. The doctors suggested the king that he would need to go to some other places where they are medically advanced than his own kingdom in order to get a proper and a safe treatment of the disease. The doctors tried every possible way to persuade their king to go abroad for getting proper treatment of the disease. The king softly thanked all doctors who had done their best for the king. The king then informed his doctors that, quote, "Let me cure my own disease before deciding to go somewhere else," unquote. Doctors ran out of words to offer to their king and just observed their king's condition closely. At the critical time, the king calmly listened to audio tape about Buddhist meditation, which was taught by his chaplain monk when the king was ordained as a Buddhist monk and meditated in deep contemplation. At the same time, the Buddhist monks all over the kingdom meditated and chanted Buddhist discourses for speedy recovery of the king. Miraculously, in the next morning, the king's conditions of cardiovascular got better gradually, till the king restored his health to normal by its own effort. His determination of not to leave his subjects was so strong that he did not give up that vow, even in the time of critical period of his own life. This is a true character of what we call Dharmaraja. Let me share with you another story of the Dharmaraja. Once upon a time, the king was ascended to the throne at his young age. However, the king left his kingdom to finish his education abroad. The king recalled his departure. Quote, "While on the road, I heard someone shout, 'Please do not abandon the people.' I felt like shouting back, 'If the people do not abandon me, then how can I ever abandon the people?'" This is another character of the Dharmaraja. Let me share with you another story of Dharmaraja, my fourth story. Once upon a time, a Buddhist kingdom was invaded by communism. Most neighboring countries of his kingdom had fallen over to communism already. the government finds difficult to face with the forceful invasion of communism from every direction. Many anti-government intellectuals fled from urban cities to deep in the jungle to live with guerrilla forces. Many regions of the kingdom already fell under the control of guerrilla forces. It was not safe for civil servants to travel around the region, which was labeled as red or pink region. However, nobody in the kingdom estimated how people loved their king in addition to communist ideology. Everyone assumed that monarchy was against the communism, while the government was weak to solve the problem of communism invasion. It was the king who visited all those underdeveloped areas. Many areas where king visited were publicly labeled as red or pink areas controlled by guerrilla forces. King visited those areas without any fear of getting hurt by guerrilla forces. He visited with full of compassion and tried to understand their problems and tried to help in every possible way to alleviate their suffering. Generally, the king goes to see his personal advisor, a Buddhist monk, each time he gets back from making his royal visits to those communist-infested areas. The king used to report what he had noticed in those underdeveloped areas and asked for help from his advisor. The king asked to send few Buddhist monks to those underdeveloped areas where the king had secretly prepared facilities for those monks. Once monks were in those isolated areas, things slowly changed. Buddhist monks live side by side of the society. Nature of Buddhist practice is not to isolate an asceticism, but to embed themselves within the communities. Naturally, the Buddhist practice gradually destroyed the isolation of communism without even noticing the change. The king's Buddhist monks became change agents in those areas without anybody's notice. Gradually, those red regions slowly transformed to a pink and pink to white. The communism was slowly disappeared from his kingdom. Who can think the king was the person who diluted communism from his kingdom with the help of Buddhist monks? This is another story of Dharmikaraja. Let me give you the fifth story of Dharmikaraja. Once upon a time, there was a king who liked to listen to a sermon by Buddhist monks. On one occasion, a monk narrated a story of previous life of Buddha when he was fulfilling the perfection of perseverance, Viriya Paramita, entitled Mahajanaka, which means the greatest father. Having listened to this story, the king was very inspired and went back to his palace and began his own research of the story from its original scripture. Finally, the king ended up in rewriting the story of his own to fit the modern society and deliver it to his subjects. In rewriting the story, the king presented the story as though it is a story of the recent time, with detailed additions of meteorology, astrology, and modern maps. The king used his rewritten story to encourage a practice of perseverance in purity to his subjects in the right time of economic crisis of his kingdom. The king not only rules his subjects, but always acts as a teacher to his subjects. The king is always teaching different things on spiritual, technical, and occupational guidance to his subjects. This is a task of Dharmikaraja based on the religious text. My last story of the Dharmikaraja, the sixth story, it goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a king who only spent 3 months of a year in his palace in the city. The king spent his remaining 9 months of the year in making journeys to see his subjects in every nook and corner of his kingdom. He traveled not for his pleasure, but to help his subjects in rural and remote areas. The king always carries with him a camera and a map, just as His Excellency mentioned this morning. But His Excellency mentioned the reality, but this is the story. And goes to meet his people in their own homes. This is how the king was updated with everything what happened to his subjects around his kingdom. His people call him a royal father, based on the nature of love and care given to them. The king is friend with everyone and look after them just like his own children, giving medical help for people who need medical treatment, give occupational guidance and financial help for people who face problems with their livelihood, help develop land where such development is needed, build water reservoir where water is shorted, help to protect forests where deforestation is the problem, build water dams to manage excess water, and gives rains with his own technology when water is drought. Even in urban, witnessing the suffering of urban people with traffic, the king designed and construct roads, bridges, and elevated roads to reduce traffic congestion for the urban citizens. Seeing polluted water in Buddhist temples and city canals, the king invented water turbine to treat polluted water. Moreover, the king sometimes intervened with the politics of his kingdom. When political parties fight each other to their own ends without solving the political problem of the country, he guides them like a father guides his fighting children. Imagine, just like Master Ching Kung this morning also mentions, the proper way of ruling the country is just like how father take care of his children. This is why that kingdom is very dear with their king. The people of that kingdom love their king so much. These are 6 different stories of a Dharmikaraja. These are the stories which you can find in a religious text as an example, as a supreme, as an ideal model of what Dharmikaraja should be. Your Excellencies, Venerables, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about those stories? Is that possible to have such a man or such a king in reality? Or it is just a story made up by wise to inspire us? Or these are simply good bedtime stories? Whether the ancient notion of the Dharmikaraja has any relevance in today's very different societies. In fact, the king in those stories is the perfect model of the righteous king, the Dharmikaraja, which have been referred in all Eastern religious texts. For example, in a Buddhist text alone, once the Buddha told King Pasendi that, quote, the king ought to rule his country under the principle of righteousness, with earnestness and carefulness in all royal duties, treating his subjects as parents treat their own children. Unquote. The king in my stories exactly rules his subjects as parents treat their own children. The Dharmikaraja is the king who always thinks of his subjects' happiness before his own. In other words, Dharmaraja etymologically means one who gladdens others with his righteousness. Raja means that one who gives away. One who gives away to please others. That is called king in etymological sense. The dharma here means that people gladdens others, his subjects, with his righteousness. That is a true sense of Dharmaraja. Will you believe me if I told you that? In fact, all those stories are true stories of the late majestic King Bhumibol Adulyadej of Thailand. Many stories are my lifetime stories. I have witnessed myself, and some of those stories are so personal to me that I had never told in the public. The first story of Dharmaraja was a story around 1980s. I heard a story from the mouth of the late His Royal Highness General Major Prince Panupan Yukon, the senior relative of the king in the story, who happened to be my own monastic sponsors. So the conversation which took place between his relative and the king was a true story and narrated to me by the person who was in that story. The second story of Dharmaraja was a story of September 1982, when His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej was in crisis with his cardiovascular disease. The story was reported by a royal staff to the late His Holiness Somdet Pranyana Sangwan, the 19th Supreme Patriarch of Thailand, while I was listening to the report sitting next by His Holiness at the time. The third story of Dharmaraja was an excerpt from the personal diary of the late His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej, which was recorded on 19 August 1946. The fourth story of Dharmaraja was around late 1970s, and the Buddhist advisor in the story was the late His Holiness the 19th Supreme Patriarch of Thailand. And in many occasions, when King came to report His Holiness, I was lucky enough to be sitting and hearing their conversation nearby. The fifth story of Dharmaraja began around 1977, when the late His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej listened to a sermon by His Serene Somdet Phra Shakyavongsvisuddhi of Wat Rajapatikaram. The royal book was widely published, and later the story was presented in so many formats, such as theatrical performance, book, cartoon, movie, and animation, etc. In the process of authoring the book of His Majesty, I was very lucky to be trusted, and I was lucky to lend my hand to be the proofreader of that very draft of His Majesty. The sixth story of the Dharmaraja, which I told you, was a summary of some of the royal activities the late His Majesty had performed throughout 70 years of his reigning period as the people's king of Thailand. So, imagine, there is such a man. We can imagine that we have such a man in this earth who took other people's happiness before his own, who did everything not for his own sake, but his subjects' sake. Venerables, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, that's why we have heard so many scholars this morning mentions again and again that when His Majesty took oath when he was enthroned in May 5, 1960. The very word His Majesty took a vow in front of all Thai citizens gave a promise that, quote, "I shall rule the land with righteousness for the benefit and happiness of people of Siam." This is a true Dharmaraja. That Dharmaraja is not living in the text anymore. That Dharmaraja have come out from the textual, religious textual book and living and breathing among us, who did everything as the happiness for other peoples. So throughout his life, for 70 years, you can see that he has been doing whatever he can for his people. And accordingly, we have learned from earlier speaker that his lifetime achievement was honored even by the United Nations, even by the UNESCO. As earlier, Madam Irina Bokova has mentioned how the wisdom of His Majesty's has been adapted in doing or in fulfilling the SDGs in different part of a 17 indicator of the SDGs. The title as a development king, which was awarded by United Nations, and so on. So this is something very rare to find. We were lucky that we were alive in the period when he was doing all those things. From Buddhist texts, we might call that he was a true bodhisattva, one who doing everything for others. So, just to keep the pictures of what he did for the country, what he did for others, let me read a poem for you. Like the sun, he gives warmth and light. Like rain, he shoots with freshness and hope. Like rivers, he enriches all regions of the land. Like earth, he supports with timeless patience. Like trees, he shelters with resilience and strength. His Majesties, throughout his life, sacrificed every breath, sacrificed all knowledge, wisdom, even royal fun for his own subjects, so that everyone can live in happy and everyone can live away from suffering. A true exemplary of being a Dharmaraja, one who gladdens his subject with his righteousness. Venerables, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, we have heard many times about SEP, sufficiency economy. Let me give my own interpretation of SEP, which is totally different from our General Secretary of National Economic and Social Development. Of course, Professor Steve has already put forward some of the background for that. Actually, when we talk about the SEP, or sufficiency economy philosophy, which I intentionally changed that philosophy to the principle. I guess sometimes I am a little bit skeptical with the philosophy. Sometimes philosophy is good in debating, good in inspiring people. But when it put into action, sometimes philosophy and action is sometimes they are living in a different sphere, different place. So I change that one to a principle which you can really act upon. So what is basically about this SEP? The first of all, I would like to say that the whole idea of a sufficient economy is, in a public view, it is an oxymoron. Just like the word Buddhist economy, it's an oxymoron. How one can imagine economy as the growth of our national income, wealth, and then how can you say that enough with that? Do you want everyone to be a Buddhist monk like me, who denied the wealth, who denied all the money, who denied all this creation of the national wealth? That is a monk business. So therefore, sufficiency economy, if we put in the word economy as we understood, that is, I call oxymoron. It wouldn't fit with the word sufficiency. Sufficiency means that enough. Sufficiency means that you know where to stop, when to stop. But economy doesn't know when to stop. Economy has to grow and grow and grow non-stop. If not, GDP will down, which indicate that your country in a bad shape. People are in suffering. So how can you say that? Sufficiency, enough with GDP? No. But His Majesty, the King, used sufficiency economy purposefully, although it is oxymoron. Because if we know the word, how the word economics come all about, the word economy in English actually, going back to around early 16th century, I think about 1530, economy is all about management of household. Economist, what it really means is that a household manager. So the whole idea of economic in original terms, it is about managing your life, managing your business, managing your family. It's nothing to do with the money, nothing to do with the business as per we used to understand. The modern economy is a dismal science. The modern economy is something to gratify your desire, your greed. And if you say there is a sufficiency, it means that you are stopping the whole greed there. So it doesn't work. But the way the king thought of that very word, "Setthakit Pho Phieng," if you know the background, how it come all about, actually the word "Setthakit Pho Phieng" or the sufficiency economy is nothing other than the Buddha's own word. Buddha's word, it says that "Santutti Paramang Dhanang," that is a Pali, of course, which means that sufficiency is an ultra wealth. When you talk about ultra wealth, what does it mean? Does it mean money? Does it mean all the figures? No. It means the virtue. It means the ethos. It means that something which we develop inside us, the quality. So therefore, when you use the word sufficiency economy, basically what it means that it's a sufficiency is an ultra wealth. So His Majesty King secularized the teaching of the Buddha to fit with all others, be it politics, be it economy, be it family, and make it sufficiency economy, saying that contentment or sufficiency is a supreme activities. Because word "Setthakit," Setha means that it is a supreme, the best practice, and Kit means that it is action, activity. So basically what King was saying, delivering to the world that how you take care of your life. You have to take care of life to develop that quality that you know when enough is enough. When you know that something which is a balance between your greed and your need. So if you can balance your greed and need, and that is where you find the sufficiency. Because greed never has limitations. And the need is something we really need it. So therefore the word sufficiency economy from a Buddhist background, I will say that it is a universal principle which can teach us to balance ourselves between our need and greed. So if we can do that, even in the economic, even in the politics, things can be run smoothly in balance. So therefore, Within the sufficiency economy, what we have seen from General Secretary's diagram, there is 3 circles around, which says that there is a moderation, there is a prudence, there is a reasonableness, and we have heard again and again. But I want to bring that to your focus. Actually, all those diagrams and the idea was the king used the Buddhist background for that. So it is a kind of a universal principle which can be used regardless of culture, regardless of geographical differentiations. Basically, king presented those ideas in a 3S. I will change again the General Secretary's definition here, or popular definition used in Thailand. In Thailand, they use moderation, prudence, and reasonableness, which sometimes make us a little bit confused. So just to make it easy to remember, one of the legacy which dynastic king had left to us is a 3S. Okay, 3S. What are those 3S? The first S is sagacity. S for sagacity. What does sagacity mean? Sagacity means acuteness of mental discernment and soundness of judgment. In other words, to know and practice of moderation in everything we do, speak, and think. Basically, what is really meant was to have that judgment in how we live, to be normal human being. It doesn't mean that what is a moderation in a sense that moderate in your greed or moderate in your lifestyle. No. You can live the way you want it, provided it doesn't hurt yourself and your economy, your society, and your environment. That's a simple formula, principle of sagacity. The second S is a spirituality. Spirituality is something very important in this world. We are living in a fragile world of impermanence. Therefore, to be able to live happily in the rapidly changing world, we need to develop quality of resiliency. The word spirituality, if I put it simply, it is a whole idea of to be mindfulness, to be mindful aware, or to meditate, to contemplate. When you are listening at the moment, although it is a very long speech, but if you have that strong concentration, mindful awareness, of course, my message will go and make you understand. But if you are thinking that I want to have my dessert soon, then you are not prudent, you are not resilient to what you are now. So that basically means that that is a samadhi. That is how you develop your concentration. That is a spirituality. Once you develop that, you are immune by other things. And the third S is sustainability. What is sustainability? Sustainability basically means that to be reasonable. Sustain, as Professor Steve has said that from a Latin etymology, it is to hold, or it is to balance. To balance is to have a cause and effect, able to reason things, what we do, what we speak, and what we think. So in a way that we can behave ourselves in these 3S, and that is a basic foundation to achieve what we call sufficiency economy. My last part is king of sustainability. Why I defined Dharmikaraja as a king of sustainability? Dharmikaraja, Dharma in Sanskrit, Dhamma in Pali, etymologically, as Professor Steve explained, is from dhr, which means uphold. And whole idea of upholding is the same word as tenere in Latin, which is the root derivation of sustain. Sus is from sub, which means from below. Tenere is the same Latin word for dhr, that is upholding. So upholding with the ground is the word dharma. And as Steve has shown that Dharma Chakra, the first sermon of the Buddha, is talking about how do you survive in this sustainability? How do you lead your life in that balance? So what His Majesty has given to us is basically that very wisdom. How can we balance our life? Be it economic, be it family, be it environment, be our educations, be our relationship between each others, if we can balance all those things, and we can prolong that to a more peaceful way, and that is the whole idea of sustainability. So that's why when we talk about the Dharma Chakra, the first sermon, we can translate it in a modern sense to go with the United Nations motto of SDGs, or UNESCO's aim of SDGs, is that Dharma Chakra Pavatana means the discourse, which tells us about how we act upon our life sustainably. And that is what His Majesty King has been shown throughout his life with the sufficiency economy principle. And that's why His Majesty is apt to call Dharmikaraja from a very new meaning called King of Sustainability in this modern world. So may his legacy making this society sustainable peace may come true in our generation, and our future generation can experience that fruitful legacy of peace. Finally, may I end with a poem which reflects the late His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej of Thailand. More than a king, more than a leader, he was the king of hearts, the heart of Thailand and her people. Look into his eyes and you will see his people. See their sorrow, see their joy, see their smiles, see their tears. Listen to his voice and hear them speak, hear their laughter, hear their cries. He was their hope, he was their joy. He was the king of hopes, the king of dreams. He was the brightest star in the sky. More than a king, more than a leader, for 70 years, for 7 decades, he was what it means to be righteous king, the Dharmikaraja, king of sustainability. Thank you.